So, Shabbat Shalom and Hag Sameach. As we mark Shmini Atzeret this evening and look towards Simchat Torah tomorrow night, we can truly think about it as our celebration of text as we conclude one cycle of Torah reading for this year and commence for the next. As such, this evening I wanted to bring 3 short texts in 3 different modalities, which I hope will teach us a few lessons and ideas about the moment in which we find ourselves. The first modality is an essay entitled Shmini Atzeret, the Concluding Holiday, by educator and philosopher Rabbi Julius Greenstone. He outlines some basic facts about this final day of the Sukkot festival. Greenstone explains it through the rabbinic parable of a king who holds a feast for 7 days, his castle full of strangers and revelers enjoying themselves for the week. At the end, the king turns to his son, who was naturally one of the guests, and says, "My son, whilst all these strangers were around, we hardly got the chance for our own conversation. Stay for 1 day longer, and we'll have a small feast for ourselves." Thus, God begs Israel to tarry, or atzar, Shmini Atzeret, this word atzar meaning to stop, for just 1 day longer as well. That being said, Greenstone reminds us that the most distinctive feature of Shmini Atzeret is the addition of the Geshem, the rain prayers, one of which we heard during our Amidah just now and one which we will hear tomorrow morning. This is because the rainy season arrives in Israel around this time, and we await it in faith and in hope. There was a superstition associated with this prayer, which used to be accompanied by burnt offerings in the times of the temple. If the smoke from the altar drifted north, the people looked forward to plentiful rain, and if it drifted south, then rain would be scarce. We must also note here that drought was viewed in ancient biblical times as a punishment for sin, and rain the reward for righteousness. Therefore, more than simply being a festival that concludes another, or where we pray for rain in, quite frankly, a pagan-like manner, it's a pause from our daily lives in which we can reflect on the closer and more intimate connections between ourselves and our surroundings. Shmini Atzeret, therefore, comes to highlight our quest for intimacy in our relationship with God, that we may always wish to dwell just a little bit longer in the house of the eternal. It highlights the intimate bonds we share with one another, that we may always be welcoming hosts to one another and there for each other at the loud parties and in the quiet conversations too. Additionally, it highlights our intimate relationship to the world around us, that we must tend to it and care for it, and merit its bounty as a result, whether from the heavens or through the works of our own hands. So this brings us to our textual modality, that of prose, with a gorgeous passage called Say It With Flowers by Rabbi Joel Blau. And as the sister of a Joel, I couldn't resist but to bring this one. An excerpt reads as follows. Say it with flowers. Nature lives beautifully and dies beautifully. Moreover, just as the spirit of beauty is the permanent element in the midst of a world constantly destroyed, so the soul of goodness is the stable element in the life of a humanity constantly dying. Say all this with flowers, and not with poor human words, for there is something in the deep life of this world which can be best expressed in the dumb speech of growing and dying things. This text reminded me of a different cycle, not that of Torah, but perhaps unsurprisingly that of life and death, of both their preciousness and their unpredictability, reflected in the intentionally temporary structure of the sukkah, a symbol of the shelter of peace. Tomorrow morning, we also recite Yizkor, a reminder of the fragile and fleeting nature of the days of our lives, as we remember those that we have loved and lost. Subsequently, we pledge and we endeavor to live our lives in ways which honor their memory, in ways of goodness, ways of beauty, and ways of peace. Lastly, tomorrow night, when we turn to joy and conclude our Torah cycle and begin it once again, we recite these words, Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazek, be strong, and you shall be strengthened. And we shall be strengthened, even more importantly. With that in mind, our final textual modality is the poem, with this work by writer Ruth Bryn weaving together these themes of intimacy and fragility and connection better than I ever could. This piece is aptly titled Simchat Torah and adapted for inclusive language. We have finished the Torah now, reading the days of our teacher Moses, and we have begun at the beginning once more. We have moved from the story of Israel to the creation of light, resolved to make a new and better beginning in our study of Torah. Before God created humans, God created time, evening and morning. God created the stars and the planets whirling in their courses, and the patterns of motion for earth and sun and moon. God created plants and birds, animals and creatures of the sea, each with its beginning, its flowering, and its ending, its rhythm of death and birth. Though we move in cycles like every work of thy hand, we are not bound to a wheel revolving on a fixed axis. We can move forward in the path that Moses taught us. Inspire us, O God, to continue the cycle of Torah. Strengthen us to renew the life of Israel. Help us to bring thy light to the lives of all people. Speed us toward the bright morning of peace. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Be strong, and may we be strengthened. Ken yehi ratzon, may it be God's will, and may it be a Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.